Hey guys, so thank you for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, I have just been documenting a little bit about all the new information that I've been learning through my infertility journey. And I'm excited to kind of share with you today some of the things that I was able to discover. And I am going to talk about today about the different types of IVF because when I was first going through this journey, I only knew about conventional IVF. And so I thought that there was only one way to do it, that one way fits all. And as it happened in my particular situation, when my conventional IVF failed and it was canceled, actually, it didn't fail, it was canceled. I didn't even make it all the way through. I was labeled as a poor responder, and then it was reverted back to IUI, which I had done for about 3 to 4 months prior to that. So I'm actually excited to be able to kind of share with you guys what I learned about the different types of IVF. And so we'll get right to it. My hand is like tired from like holding the camera. But yeah, so we'll get right to it. So they are actually different types of IVF, and I learned through research and also through the IVF clinic that I'm currently using is Life IVF Center in Irvine, California. And I stumbled into different types of IVF because in my head, I was always so curious about why it was the case that I had, even if I was a poor responder, I had eggs in there and I wanted those eggs to be given a chance. And I just found how to believe, and I kept even talking to my doctors at the time. And I was just like, I wish that there was a way that I could still go through this wonderful technology that would allow me to test my own eggs. And so I always had that at the back of my mind. And I'm glad that I actually challenged myself to keep thinking that way because I was able to discover the different types. The first type of IVF that I was so shocked to find about is called Natural Cycle IVF. Natural Cycle IVF is when the doctor you're working with monitors your natural cycle and tracks you for when you get through ovulation. And at the time that you get through ovulation, they trigger you. And then they retrieve that one egg that you have. And then they carry on through the IVF process. And I was so excited by this because I remember having done research and discovering that obviously not everybody does well with medications. Not everybody can actually handle or take the medications. And so it's nice that there's an option out there. The good news about the natural IVF is that you can pursue that option if you are under the age of 35 and you have other fertility related issues, but your egg quality is on point and it's actually what it great, and you are not somebody who struggles a lot with egg quality. And I'll tell you why. The reason why that's good is because most likely it's going to work the first time and they're going to still be able to do the IVF process and you'll be able to have your baby. And so that's the caveat for it. The only thing about natural cycle IVF is that it does follow a natural ovulation cycle or period. So I'm thinking if you have a condition maybe like PCOS, I'm thinking it may not be the best way to go unless you work with your doctor to be able to get to a place where you're ovulating and then they can have a chance to do that. It is also it is the cheapest form of IVF. And I think as I make this video, the price for conventional IVF sometimes is $18,000 to $20,000. Some clinics offer IVF for like $10,000 to $13,000. Natural cycle IVF is $5,000 or less. So something to think about. It is also actually an option that they use for women of advanced maternal age who have diminished ovarian reserve, who probably are only able to produce one egg. But the difference is that for women in that situation, and I think I am in that group as well, you have to attempt to do the natural cycle multiple times. So if you happen to be a poor responder and you just happen to always produce one egg, natural cycle IVF probably is the right way for you. Now, The second IVF type of IVF is actually what we call, it's kind of like the in between. It's called Ultra Minimal IVF. So this is where the doctor uses like very minimal drugs on you, typically Clomid or Letrozole, and they don't even use the gonadotropins at all. And they just use that to stimulate your ovaries and produce probably, one to two to three eggs. And then they're able to give those eggs a chance through IVF. So that's also another option that you can pursue. If you are younger, that option is good if you're looking at possibly banking or vitrifying your family, because unlike Natural Cycle, which is one, this one, allows control because it's very few embryos. But also, again, if you're of advanced maternal age, and that's how I fell into it, and you respond very poorly, especially to the injections, gonadotropins, then ultra minimal IVF would be the right one for you. The third type of IVF is called minimal stimulation IVF. So minimal stimulation IVF uses a combination of pills and injections. So pills, Clomid, Letrozole, gonadotropins, and it does produce eggs about 3 to 6. And so it's actually a really good option. Again, much cheaper. And just to let you know, ultra minimal and natural cycle IVF tend to have the same price, $5,000 or less. Minimal IVF tends to be $5,000. Some clinics charge $6,000 for it, and you have between 3 to 6 embryos, especially if you happen to be younger. If you happen to be of advanced maternal age, over 40, minimal IVF is good if you have an follicle count that is 5 or higher, because then what you're doing is you're retrieving eggs that are not really affected by the medication. So the eggs tend to be better quality because you're using less injections and less medications to kind of alert your ovaries to produce the eggs. So that is minimal stimulation IVF. And then the IVF, the last IVF, is what everybody knows. It's called conventional IVF. A lot of doctors are trained in that IVF, and it is where you are put on heavy drugs. The intention is to produce a multiple number of embryos with the intention of having some succeed. Now, I would say conventional IVF can be, especially when you're younger, that can be a good method for you to produce multiple eggs and increase your chances and build your whole family if you respond really, really well. But sometimes there's wastage. You might get more embryos than you need. And if you're somebody who doesn't want to have extra embryos out there, extra babies out there, and you know that you don't have any response issues, then I think working your way through the IVF processes might be the best way to go. But again, for me, conventional IVF did not work because number one, my age. I have diminished ovarian reserve and have a low follicle count. Number two, the quality was not good. And I also just don't respond when I did it. I remember spending about $6,000 in medications, and I only got one dominant follicle. And I couldn't even try IVF on that one follicle just to see what would happen with it. And so it ended up being reverted to an IUI, which didn't work. So I wasn't able to see if the egg fertilized. I wasn't able to see if it reached cleavage stage, if it reached morula, and if it reached blastocyst. And the technology can actually help you be able to see that because that gives you information. You want to know what these embryos are going through. You want to know and you want to understand the cycle. And I think that's where the technology can really help a lot of women, is just to be told no, or for you to not proceed with the cycle. You don't know, every embryo deserves a chance. Every embryo that you have. So even if you're labeled a poor responder, that's what you can give. And if you want to give it your all for this level of treatment before advancing into the higher levels of treatment, why not? I think it's worth a few trials. I think what is just difficult is to get stuck in one treatment level without advancing in the technology to see that. Like what I tell a lot of people that I was most excited about is the fact that I advanced in treatment. When I had IUI, I didn't even know what happened. I couldn't even track what happened to the eggs that I had. And when I did my first IVF retrieval, I was able to get an embryo report for the one embryo that I had, I was able to get information that it fertilized. I was able to get information that it had moved to day 3. I was able to get information that it had moved to morula. And then, unfortunately, I got information that it arrested. But for me, knowing that my chances were 1 out of 8 for women in my age group, all I wanted to do was to give myself a chance with this, to be able to see how my embryos are doing. And that information can also give you, that process rather gave me information that I could use. So like my embryologist and I discussed it, and one of the things we're possibly thinking is, because I had such a perfect day 3, maybe it would have done better in my body. So we're thinking maybe after a few tries, if I'm consistently making good cleavage, that maybe just to try 3-day transfer in the future possibly. And that's information that I probably would not have been able to know if I had just stuck with continuous IUIs, because I'm a poor responder and my doctors only know one IVF method. One thing to also note, guys, is that Louise Brown, the first person that was conceived of IVF, was conceived of a natural cycle IVF. It was a natural cycle IVF, and that's just the truth. And this is out there. So do your research. The other versions of IVF were actually developed, I believe, in Japan by a doctor who really believed that it wasn't so much a situation where you had to pump a lot of drugs in women in order to have them reproduce. And so thank goodness that this was actually discovered. So, all right, so I'm going to stop there. I'm getting a little bit long-winded, but those are the different types of IVF. So let me know, let's talk about it. Which IVF is more attractive for you? Which one are you thinking about exploring if you're thinking about advancing in your journey, especially from IUI, kind of think about moving forward? And what did you learn today? What was the most important thing? Remember, that's why I do these videos. I have watched a lot of fertility videos, and I wanted to do one on my own because we are a community and we support each other. So hopefully this was helpful. All right, look forward to hearing from you guys. We'll talk later. Bye.